Good afternoon, and welcome to the 36th Annual Charles A. Goldmark Award Luncheon. My name is Fred Rivera, Executive Vice President and General Counsel for the Seattle Mariners, and a proud trustee of the Legal Foundation of Washington. It's truly my honor to be your host and MC for today. So let's hit a home run today and knock it out of the park for equal justice. I hope you'll join me. If you need to access closed captioning, you can click on the link in the chat box or on the event page below. As we all know, the past 2 years have been very challenging. This past year alone, more people have fallen into poverty, and requests for legal aid, particularly for housing and unemployment issues, have skyrocketed. Now, more than ever, it's important we gather to support legal aid. We are very grateful you are with us. Your support allows us to provide civil legal services to so many people so they are able to thrive in our state. By joining us today, you demonstrate your strong commitment to advancing equal justice for all people across our state. We need you, and we really do appreciate you. Despite all of the challenges of the past 2 years, our community did not stop working for equity and justice. So we will begin today with a look at some of the progress our community made last year as a result of long-term advocacy and impact litigation, with a special focus on fighting for the rights of immigrants in our community. So let's take a look.
The Washington Immigrant Solidarity Network is a grassroots coalition of over 400 organizations statewide, licensed, educates, and mobilizes communities to uphold and defend the rights of immigrants and refugees. When the pandemic started in March of 2020, undocumented people were one of the first ones to be severely impacted, were deemed essential workers, which put them at high risk of the virus. In April, we organized a diverse coalition of 460 organizations and groups who endorsed and asked Governor Inslee for $100 million. Governor Inslee committed $40 million for a relief fund for undocumented Washingtonians. The success of this relief fund was because we had one goal of bringing economic justice to a community that was constantly and systemically left out of safety net programs. The Washington Immigrant Relief Fund was designed and implemented by community organizations, and there were systemic challenges that prevented community organizations from administering the fund, and that is where the Legal Foundation of Washington stepped in to support. So together, as the Washington Immigrant Relief Fund, the Legal Foundation of Washington, and with 11 other partner organizations, we successfully distributed $125 million in economic aid to undocumented Washingtonians. It was a light of hope. With the leadership of Columbia Legal Services, we organized in the 2021 legislative session to remove the immigration restriction in the Oakland statute so that undocumented people can receive civil legal aid representation like every other Washington resident. Thank you to the Legal Foundation of Washington, Northwest Immigrant Rights Project, Fair Work Center, Columbia Legal Services. With a lot of your help, our community wouldn't have had the tools that they need to survive this pandemic.
At NERP, even though the majority of the work we do is direct representation, we have an impact litigation unit. Over the last 10 years, Northwest Immigrant Rights Project has taken on a series of class actions challenging different types of detention in the immigration proceedings. Our Padilla case, which is back at the Ninth Circuit in mediation, covers a class of 40,000 individuals, providing them the right to immediate bond hearings. I just returned from presenting oral arguments before the Supreme Court. Aleman Gonzalez has generated more than 1,000 bond hearings for individuals. We filed it back in 2016. That case started on behalf of individuals here in Washington State who are locked up for months and sometimes years. That's what this case is all about. It's about challenging arbitrary and unlawful imprisonment. The fact that these individuals are being locked up, even though every single one of them has already been screened by an official from the Department of Homeland Security, and every single one of them has been found to have a bona fide claim, meaning they've endured persecution or torture, so they still have to endure 6 months of detention. But if the government hasn't resolved their case by 6 months, then at last they at least get a bond hearing, a chance to show that they should be released. It's invigorating having the opportunity to go there and try to assert the rights of our clients before the highest court and saying, this is what our legal tradition demands, is the right to a fair hearing before an independent decision maker in order to justify their detention. And without legal representation, there's just really no meaningful opportunity for justice in this system. The truth is, there's a lot of individuals who are locked up, so we're going to keep pushing.
We did a lot of great things for residents of this state to ensure access to justice. I'm really proud that Washington State was the first state in the nation not only to pass right to counsel for low-income tenants in eviction proceedings, but to fully fund it. In addition, we removed the discriminatory restrictions that previously prohibited undocumented residents of our state to have access to civil legal aid. We also extended right to counsel in youth dependency hearings, so young people have their own representatives when they're going to court. And after a long time effort, we banned private prisons in Washington State. There is more work to do. Personally, I am working to ensure that we continue to fully fund right to counsel in eviction proceedings. I worked very closely with member organizations of the Equal Justice Coalition, the Housing Justice Project, Northwest Justice Project, Columbia Legal Services, the Northwest Immigrant Rights Project, the Washington Immigrant Solidarity Network. It's been great to work with such wonderful partners.
Now, that is some incredible, inspiring work, and only a few examples of what we can accomplish when we all work together. These successes result from many years of advocacy and partnership to advance equal justice. Thank you to everyone who has been working for years on these and many other efforts. Securing justice for all means investing in both short-term and long-term solutions to increase access to our legal system. This is why LFW commits half of our funding to programs working for long-term systemic change. As you heard about in the video, these systemic changes transform millions of lives every year. So thanks again for being here today and growing your commitment to equal access to justice. So we have an exciting program today, and we hope you'll enjoy it. We'll of course celebrate the Goldmark Award recipient, Annie Lee. We'll also hear more from our legal aid partners and supporters and the great work that they're all doing. And we'll wrap up with an inspiration keynote from our speaker, Dr. Ben Danielson. But first, a couple of housekeeping matters to take care of before we begin. First, congrats on making it to this platform. After almost 2 years, we should be able to access technology to attend these great events. Now that you're here, join the conversation and use the chat below to say hi to your friends. Second, if you have technical issues, please email justice@legalfoundation.org. LFW staff will be available to assist you. Also, as a reminder, to access open captioning, look underneath the video or find the link in the chat. And of course, finally, the reason we're all here, and that's to support LFW and equal access to legal aid across our entire state. Because if it's not equal, it's not justice. And you have the power to make that a reality. Importantly, you need to know how to make your donation. You can do that by clicking the orange donate button to the right of this video. Or we have a new way to donate by simply texting. Just text the word justice to 53555. That's justice to 53555. This number will be in the chat. Of course, you can also send a check by clicking the donate button and choosing send a check as your payment type. Now it's my pleasure to introduce the Executive Director of the Legal Foundation of Washington, Caitlin Davis. Caitlin, take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Caitlin Davis, the Executive Director of the Legal Foundation of Washington, and I'm so thrilled to welcome you to the 36th Annual Charles A. Goldmark Luncheon, where we get together to celebrate all of our accomplishments for civil legal aid. As we kick off our second virtual event, I would like to acknowledge that I am in Seattle on the traditional and unceded territory of the Coast Salish people. We honor this land with gratitude and encourage you to learn more about whose land you're on. The Legal Foundation of Washington was founded almost 40 years ago to equal the playing field, to provide access to legal expertise and resources to those individuals and families who, because they live in poverty, would otherwise be alone and unrepresented in court. The events of the past 2 years have challenged us all in ways we could not have imagined. But I'm heartened by the resilience of our community, the legal aid providers, the judges in remote courtrooms, pro bono lawyers, and the elected officials and policymakers who are all working to resolve legal aid issues for low-income people and families, and to reform unjust systems that perpetuate poverty and racism. We'd like to take a few minutes to share with you some of the amazing work that you helped make possible in 2021. Last year, the Legal Foundation granted out nearly $13 million to 40 organizations across Washington state who served over 20,000 low-income families. In addition, the Legal Foundation worked with several community partners to administer the groundbreaking Washington Immigrant Relief Fund. We've also grown our Race Equity Grant Program, which is now entering its third year. The program was created to build power within communities that have been historically overlooked in philanthropy and is built on a participatory grant-making model, which includes an advisory panel of community experts who review grant applications and make recommendations for funding. This process has introduced LFW to many new and wonderful organizations doing critical work. Looking ahead to 2022, we're excited to announce a big change to our Partnership Grants program. The Legal Foundation is now making 2-year grant awards to our 24 annual partnership grantees in an effort to provide more stability to legal aid organizations providing vital services for people in need of justice and advocacy. Everyone here today, every legal aid provider, pro bono lawyer, judge and justice, elected official, and equal justice ambassador makes this work possible. Thank you so much. I would be remiss if I didn't mention 3 important people we lost in the last year. Judge Dean Morgan, former Justice Mary Fairhurst, and Don Horowitz. We will miss their compassion, their fierce intellect, their friendship, and their commitment to equal justice for all. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Candelaria Murillo, the 2022 president of the Legal Foundation of Washington. Candelaria is a lawyer with the Anderson Law Group in Kennewick, and she is a former worker for Columbia Legal Services and Northwest Immigrant Rights Project. It is with great enthusiasm that I turn this over to Candelaria.
Thank you, Caitlin. Welcome to the Legal Foundation of Washington's 36th Annual Charles A. Goldmark Distinguished Service Award Luncheon, named in honor of LFW co-founder Chuck Goldmark. I am very honored to serve as President of the Board of Trustees of the Legal Foundation of Washington. Bienvenidos al evento anual de la Fundación Legal de Washington en honor de Chuck Goldmark, uno de los fundadores. Es un honor servirles como presidenta de la mesa directiva de la Fundación Legal de Washington. 2021 has been another challenging year for legal aid in Washington as the need for services continues to rise. But our incredible network of legal aid programs has risen to the challenge and continues to step up by providing responsive, accessible services during this pandemic. As you have already heard, together we have accomplished a great deal in our efforts to increase access to justice in the legislature, in coalitions, and in the courts. Our Alliance for Equal Justice partners continue to forge a new vision for the future of civil legal aid, one that centers around racial justice and challenges the root causes of inequity in our justice system. Because as the justices of the Washington Supreme Court said last year in their open letter to the community, we can change the system if we only have the courage and the will. And together we've proven that we have the will. Every day our legal aid partner organizations are transforming lives and systems, helping more people access justice through direct legal representation, high-impact litigation, and systemic policy reform. In addition to launching the new 2-year grant cycle, LFW welcomes a new partnership agreement with our grantee, Community Rise. Community Rise works with nonprofits, micro-enterprises, and communities that have been impacted by systemic oppression to increase capacity and build power through legal services, tools, and trainings. Community Rise is the only nonprofit that offers this type of legal services in Washington State. The program demonstrates a high quality of service and an outstanding commitment to race equity. We are thrilled to welcome Community Rise as a partnership grantee. Bienvenidos. We couldn't expand our grant making if we didn't have a robust fundraising effort. Our campaign for equal justice raises $2 million annually for our grant pool and continues to grow, introducing new people to the power of legal aid as a way to increase justice in our communities. So thanks to all of you who support the annual Law Firm campaign, our Associates campaign, the Beer and Justice events, and much more. We are fortunate here in Washington to have one of the only long-term sustainable funds for legal aid, our Endowment for Equal Justice, which has provided almost $6 million to the foundation over the last 8 years. One of the best parts of this work is the people. I would like to thank my fellow LFW trustees and the members of the boards of the Campaign of Equal Justice, the Endowment for Equal Justice, and the Endowment Advisory Council for their commitment of time, advice, and financial contributions to the cause of equal justice. Thank you, Caitlin Davis and Legal Foundation staff, for your work every day to provide strategic resources to the legal aid community in our state. Thank you to our legal aid grantees for your tireless work for equal justice. And thank you to each one of you for being here today and donating to make this work possible. Gracias con todo corazón. While I am humbled by the challenges ahead, I am also inspired by how the legal community stepped up in 2020 and again in 2021 to help those in need of legal aid. And I know we can do it again today. Thank you so much for standing with us for equity and justice.
Thank you, Candelaria, and thank you, Caitlin, for your leadership and inspiration to make equal justice a reality in our state. Now, speaking of leadership, it's my pleasure now to recognize our top sponsors who provide significant support to the Legal Foundation of Washington. Our presenting sponsors have contributed $20,000. The Berwick-Daigle Family Foundation, Conley Law Offices, and Microsoft. Next, our legacy sponsors. They've contributed $10,000. Amazon, Davis Wright Tremaine, DeLay, Curran, Thompson, Pantalaro, and Walker, Johnson Flora Spranglers, Perkins Coie, Starbucks Coffee Company, and T-Mobile. Leadership sponsors have donated $5,000. Thank you, John and Bobby Bridge, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, K&L Gates Law Firm, Hillis, Clark, Martin, and Peterson, Fowl, Cochran, Vertitas, and Amala, the Washington State Association for Justice, Washington Trust Bank, and William A. Walkner Foundation. We also have many wonderful sponsors contributing $3,500 at the equal justice sponsorship level that you can see on your screen. And of course, many more supporters have donated at our $1,000 community sponsorship level. Thank you all so much for your generosity and for your kind support. Now here's a brief message from our top corporate sponsor, Microsoft.
So at Microsoft, we are excited to double our investment and our commitment to the Campaign for Equal Justice. We're also honored to double our investment in the Goldmark event. The Legal Foundation of Washington and its 40-plus partners, and the funding that it provides, and that safety net, it is critical. It's life-saving to people who need those services. These services range anywhere from domestic violence to evictions to mental health. We are lucky at Microsoft to have leaders like Brad Smith, like Sean Davis, like Rima Alaili, Yemi Jackson, most importantly, Beth Henderson, who are so dedicated to supporting these efforts. And each legal professional at Microsoft has a commitment to aspire to provide up to 30 hours of pro bono legal services. In the Pacific Northwest, we're very fortunate to have many successful organizations. And if we can work together, we have a greater opportunity to transform lives. The impact is not additive, it's exponential. So I would really encourage all of you to really think about supporting the Legal Foundation of Washington.
A huge thanks to Microsoft for its strong support for equal justice and for inviting and challenging others to increase and join them. As you just heard, the need is great, and so we've set a big goal for today. We're aiming to raise over $500,000 by the time this event ends, and I know that you can do it. Can we see our fundraising numbers, please? We're getting there. $345,119,000 with 760 supporters. Wow, thanks to all of you for raising this amount. We have a ways to go, but we also have time to get there. Now, this amount includes sponsorship funds and gifts that came in before today's events. Thank you all so much for those of you who have made those gifts and for those that will make gifts today. Now, remember, there are two ways for you to donate. First, you can click on the orange donate button on your screen, or our new text function is available. Text justice to 53555. Now, we have a couple donors that we want to thank who have made donations today. Noah Jaffe, Andre Penelalver, Jacqueline Smith, and Lisa Keeler. Thank you so much for your kind contributions. Now, I know we can blow past our goal together. We need to raise about $180,000 today so we can show our commitment to equal justice. Thank you for supporting civil legal aid. Now I'd like to introduce my colleague on the LFW board, Sean Davis. He's also a principal corporate counsel at Microsoft. Sean is going to tell us more about LFW and its partners in the community. Thank you for being here, Sean.
Thanks so much, Fred. Hi, everyone. I'm very honored to be with you today to tell you more about the Legal Foundation's mission to advance justice. Here are a few reasons why I support this work. We envision a society where poverty and race are not impediments to justice. We work to increase access to civil legal aid for all people in Washington and to improve equity in the justice system. We strive to reflect and advance racial justice and inclusion in our grant making because of historical impacts of racism and the disparate outcomes it creates for people of color, particularly in the legal system. All of the 40 programs we fund align with these values, and it's thanks to those donors like you, our partner organizations can provide vital services and advance equal justice. One such program is Solid Ground. Their work is an inspiration. They believe poverty is solvable, and they combine meeting basic needs with community-based advocacy and legal aid. Today, we're going to hear from Solid Ground attorneys and someone they recently helped named Hope Kiyadara. Let's take a look.
Solid Ground is an anti-poverty organization. Our program provides free legal assistance for people who are having issues accessing or maintaining their state benefits. We are a legal aid program embedded within a really large organization that does so much other work. What that allows us to do is foster a sense of being in community with our clients.
My name is Hope Keldara. I called to 211. They're resource assistant for low-income people. When you call them, they will refer you to Solid Ground. They will assign you an attorney. I got a letter from the state saying that I have child care overpayment. The letter said that there's a fraud. I was just thinking about fraud is jail time and thinking about how I'm going to be separated from my kids for a long time.
She wound up being our paralegal because she's the one that went out and contacted all her neighbors. They were claiming that she wasn't living at the house that she claims that she lives at. They come up with these allegations of fraud, there's no basis for it, and then say we're going to saddle you with either $45,000 in debt, or we're going to sell you $45,000 in debt and prosecute you criminally.
I was feeling hopeless. My court would just keep extending, and I thought, I have no chance.
We got 29 witnesses, over 100 exhibits, photos, text messages, emails, and declarations to establish that Ms. Keldara was actually living in the home that she was living in.
I knew I had to win the case, but Will keep my heads up. He keep reassuring me. I have a strong case that I'm gonna win this. I trust him because he was there like every step of the way.
And they finally said, we're going to drop the case. It took a heavy toll, particularly given the fact that it took 18 months.
I was overwhelmed with excitement. The nightmare is over. I start to continue on, try to think about my future.
You and I have not met, and we've been looking forward to this day.
Yes. My excitement was more to meet Will in person, to thank him in person.
The Legal Foundation of Washington funds nearly half of our programs, so their funding is really critical in our ability to continue to do this work. They've been able to introduce this level of stability to our legal aid program. Thank you so much for your support of the Legal Foundation of Washington, not just on behalf of the Benefits Legal Assistance Program, but all the civil legal aid providers across the state who receive funding from LFW. It really ensures that we can do the work that we care so much about.
Thank you, Hope, for sharing your story with us. Solid Ground is committed to supporting its clients every step of the way and breaking cycles of poverty. For every client like Hope, there are 3 others who cannot get the legal help they need because of a lack of resources. You can help, and this is why we're all here today. Now back to you, Fred.
Thank you, Sean. As you heard, nearly half of the funding for Solid Ground's legal aid program comes from LFW funds for this critical work to provide stability and equal justice to each of its clients. Now, we are going to announce a few of our Campaign for Equal Justice awards and acknowledge some of our incredible board members and volunteers who work hard to raise funds every year. First up, we'll recognize 2 county bar associations whose members have soared above the rest to show their commitment and support for equal justice. Every year, the Legal Foundation of Washington awards the Rainier Cup to the county with the highest percentage of lawyers donating to the Campaign for Equal Justice. Now, this is a highly sought-after award, and I'm very excited to announce that this year the Rainier Cup goes to Whatcom County. Huge congratulations to Whatcom County lawyers for their incredible achievement. They have won the Rainier Cup Award 3 years in a row. Now, many counties have tried to beat them, but Whatcom remains at the top. Thank you all for your generous support for civil legal aid. Now, in addition to the Rainier Cup, the Campaign for Equal Justice has created a new award this year called the Mountain Climber Award. This special award will recognize one group that goes above and beyond, one that demonstrates an increasing amount of support and leadership for advancing equal justice. This year, we're very excited to honor Cowlitz and Wahkiakum counties with our new Mountain Climber Award. the folks at Cowlitz Wahkiakum Legal Aid, and the attorneys in this county have shown a great increase in the number of people supporting legal aid and growth and the percentage of county bar members supporting the campaign for equal justice. Truly, thank you to everyone in Cowlitz and Wahkiakum counties for stepping up to support the campaign for equal justice. Your extra effort and leadership are greatly appreciated. Now for some outstanding achievement, please welcome the co-chairs of the 2021 Associates Campaign for Equal Justice, Matt Clark and Rachel Morowitz, both current associates at K&L Gates. Matt and Rachel, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Fred. We are so happy to be here, and thanks so much to LFW and the Campaign for Equal Justice for hosting another fun year for the Associates Campaign. 2021 was the third year of the Associates Campaign for Equal Justice, and we've both been involved since the beginning.
That's right, Rachel. It was an absolute honor to co-chair the campaign this year and to work with so many incredible committee members of associates from 12 law firms across the state. We had a ton of fun and crushed our goal this year by raising $145,000 for civil legal aid.
I know that's right, Matt. All we do is crush our goals, and we could not have done it without so many dedicated associates. So if your firm isn't part of the Associates Campaign yet, please contact the GOAT, Natalia Fiora at LFW, and join us this fall. Now, we are really excited to tell you about the winners, but first, take a look at our 2021 law firms. These 12 law firms worked together to raise funds and also competed for a few awards to keep things fun for a good cause. Thanks to each of these firms for joining us. Matt, will you tell us about the new Rainmaker Award?
Absolutely. Due to outstanding performances over the past 2 years, we are excited to announce a new Rainmaker Award to honor a firm that has shown a due diligence in raising the most funds for 2 years running. So congratulations to Davis Wright Tremaine for earning our first ever Rainmaker Award. I'd like to give a special shout out to Sarah Fairchild and Grace Thompson for leading the way for over 100 associate attorneys at DWT and maintaining a positive throw for your partners and bringing them in for the cause for equal justice.
Thanks, Matt, and congrats to DWT. Very well deserved. Now, last year was a year of growth, and 3 new firms joined the Associates Campaign. We knew this year was going to be tough and that we would all have to up our game. We always compete for 2 awards, one for the highest average gift and one for greatest participation. This year, our 2 coveted trophies both go to one of the new firms. They have a small number of associates, but they are huge in heart and generosity, and we knew they would be tough the minute they joined the campaign.
So we are excited to announce that the winner of this year's Amicus Cup, the award for the highest participation rate, and the Generous Counsel Cup for the highest average gift goes to Fow, Cochran, Bertitas, and Amela. A huge congratulations to PCVA for sweeping both awards this year. Now, let's go to PCVA team in their Tacoma office to hear what they have to say.
Hello, my name is Bridget Groats.
And I'm Sydney Codd. Thank you. We're so excited to have won both of these awards.
This was our firm's first year participating in the Associates Campaign, and we're very honored to be able to help support the Legal Foundation of Washington in all of its amazing work.
All of the firms set a very high bar for the campaign this year, and we are proud to have been able to team up with all of you and exceed our goals.
Thank you again. We're proud to have achieved this and to support equal justice. Rachel and Matt, thank you for your leadership. Back to you.
Thanks so much, Bridget, Sydney, and Tom, and everyone at PCVA for your huge support. You crushed it. Even though you beat Keller Warback, I hear they are planning a comeback this year. So get ready.
Thanks again for inspiring the associates across the state, and especially those at Fow, Cochran, Bertitas, Amela, and at Davis Wright Tremaine. You've really set the goal and raised the bar for attorneys statewide at K&L Gates, Perkins Coie, Foster Garvey, Miller Nash, and all other firms who strive to create more equal justice. And back to you, Fred.
Thanks, Matt and Rachel. It's really inspiring to hear about the Associates Campaign and to see so many emerging leaders getting involved in crushing their goals. It's another reminder of the difference we can make when we all work together. Speaking of work, it's time to check in our progress and recognize more of you for supporting during today's event. First, let's take a look at the fundraising thermometer to see where we are on our $500,000 goal. We're inching up, $354,564. We got room to go, but as I said before, we got time to get there. A couple thanks to some donors today: Lael Eckelhock, Mark and Mary Griffin, John Weber, and Barb Duffy. Thank you so much for contributing today, and for all of you who have contributed so far and will before this event is over. Keep those dollars coming for equal justice. Again, we still have time. And remember, there are two ways you can donate. You can hit the donate button on your screen or just text justice to 53555 to make your gift. Now, we are here to celebrate our 2022 Goldmark Award honoree, Annie Lee. As Team Child's executive director for more than 20 years, she has shown that she is passionate about standing up for the rights and dignity of her young clients. Annie and her colleagues at Team Child envision a world where all young people have power and experience unconditional belonging at school, home, and in their communities. Embodying this belief, Annie's impact on the lives of the young people she serves has been absolutely incredible. Now, here to present Annie with her award, please welcome Reina Rololazo, Community Engagement and Anti-Racism Director at Team Child.
Thank you, Fred. I'm honored to present this year's Goldmark Award to somebody who is synonymous with juvenile justice in Washington State and Team Child, and happens to be my previous boss, Annie Lee. I got to witness but a fraction of Annie's 25-year career at Team Child, first as an attorney and then as an executive director. But in that time, I came to know who Annie is as a leader. And when I think of her, 3 words come to mind: vision, dedication, and growth. Annie has tremendous vision for how systems and society can transform to reduce harm to communities and better serve youth. She thinks really big about what's possible and encourages everyone around her to do the same. Second, pure dedication. Annie has relentlessly advocated for juvenile justice impacted youth for over 2 decades, and her commitment and tenacity has never wavered, something I aspire to. Finally, growth. Annie has led by example in demonstrating that a strong leader continually learns, grows, and stretches themselves, evolving to show up for what's next. I'm just one of many, many people whose lives has been impacted by Annie. Now join me in enjoying a video to bear witness to Annie's impact.
Annie is so deserving of this award because of her consistent advocacy on behalf of children.
She's affected so many things in this state and has been so powerful. Everybody knows Annie, but everybody doesn't know what Annie has done.
Her leadership style is selfless and never looking for anything for herself. We are so lucky to have had Annie lead Team Child for the last 20 years.
It's been an exciting couple decades of work because we've gone at it in various ways to try to reduce criminal legal involvement for young people. And what I love about Team Child is that we don't fit into a traditional bucket of legal aid. There are new things happening all the time, new legal issues that no one's ever heard of or practiced with. We're the first ones to try out.
Annie's approach is very gentle, very calm. That calm presence is what makes Annie so effective.
In the 20 years that Annie's been the director of Team Child, it's grown into national prominence. Annie is so revered and regarded nationally.
The crux of the systemic work that we're doing is trying to reframe how we think about young people and to divest ourselves from using an adult criminal legal framework for addressing behavioral issues. There's so much work to be done and so much of the systemic inequities are driven by racial injustice and also economic injustice.
She and her team have been able to bring in communities so that they can tackle the racial inequities that result in so many children of color being disproportionately entangled in the juvenile justice system.
When I first began interacting with Annie, it was almost 10 years ago. She was always looking for ways to engage me in the bigger picture of what was going on in our region and constantly pulling on me to become part of a broader conversation of how we can see justice done differently for our young people. I don't think either Dom or I really understood our capacity to lead in the way that Annie saw it before we were doing it. That's part of what's made Annie magic, is her prophetic vision and her ability to see possibilities where other people see problems.
I had a good idea of creating this organization called Community Passageways. She believed in it. At the same time, when other people that I thought was gonna walk with me through this and help me navigate this didn't believe in the vision. She was that one person that came in and spent one-on-one time with me. And it was just awesome. So I'll never forget her for that.
Team Child has been a real resource, not only to entities like the legislature, but also to us within the court. Team Child was the one who really invited judges to look at a young person in a holistic fashion. A child's absence from school is more complicated. They also might be homeless, that they might be hungry, that there might be other needs that we needed to address that were far more important than simply attendance at school.
Team Child has been a partner who really helped push it forward in the sphere of advocacy. We've worked on things like raising the age for young people who are 8 years old to no longer be able to be criminalized for their behavior in Washington State, and to help make sure that young people who are 19 are still viewed as a youth, because we know nothing magical happens at the age of 18, or the work that we did around making sure that every young person has access to a public defender.
Annie Lee and Team Child, I gotta give this to Annie. She was brilliant in the way that she looped us into all those different opportunities. How can I, little me, some guy from the hood, affect legislation? And she pulled me in and had me pull some young people in, and we can be effective. We can make change at the highest level in our state.
And so Annie Lee and Team Child has done a phenomenal job to remind all of us that the true power lies in the collective us.
Probably one thing that most people don't know about Annie, and that is that she is a mean dragon boater.
She can do anything, making the famous Lee dumplings.
She's like so committed, she brings her son with her to community meetings.
Watching her play mom and being dedicated to the community at the same time, it's amazing. I love it.
Here in Seattle King County and across the state, there's a drive towards reducing incarceration. We should all be committed to making the number zero. That's the challenge for the next generation, is to bring those solutions to bear for the young people that we work with.
Congratulations, Annie.
Thank you so much, Raina. I'm going to set this down here so I don't drop it. Well, thank you again, Raina. It means so much to me to have you here today, and I'm so proud and honored to have worked with you, alongside you and the staff and board at Team Child all these years. I'm so honored by this award and grateful for the support of you and many others, including my partner Charlie and our son Atticus, my paddling friends, my family, Sandy and John, who are watching in Honolulu. This is a big transition for both me and for Team Child. My first Goldmark Luncheon was in 1996. Pat Arthur was that year's recipient, recognized for her dogged and brilliant advocacy for those incarcerated in Washington's prisons and institutions. At the time, I had been a staff attorney at Evergreen Legal Services Vancouver office for just a few years, and I was just hearing about the new project called Team Child that Pat and Simi Bear started. Now, if you're lucky enough to know Pat and Simi, you know how inspiring and persuasive they are. So it was just a year later that I moved to Seattle to work for Team Child, and Elizabeth Calvin, Team Child's first executive director, and another very persuasive woman with a powerful vision. Team Child started as a pilot project with a $50,000 youth violence prevention grant. We were a scrappy operation. Thanks to Bob Berukowitz, my office was donated space in the Defender Association suite in downtown Seattle. I had a window, but the office was so small that anyone who wanted to meet me had to sit in the hallway. There were many in those early days that generously gave their time expertise, extra furniture, office space, computers, phones, and office supplies to our effort. Team Child started like that story of Stone Soup. Everyone brought a little bit. Public defenders, legal aid and volunteer lawyer programs, juvenile courts, prosecutors, judges, and community partners, each investing what they could in the idea that young people would benefit from a legal team that could help them navigate the barriers that they faced. Before we knew it, we had a rich, warm, and nourishing pot filled with a little bit from a lot of people. Well, we've come quite a way from those days, but what has remained constant over time are the values that brought us all together. The Goldmark Luncheon and all the awardees that have been recognized over these 36 years have, for me, been a reinforcement of what makes the legal community and its many supporters in Washington State so special. I can attribute my and Team Child's success to these values. The Goldmark Luncheon reminds us that while we may all come to this work through our own unique paths and individual ambitions, we are the strongest and most impactful as a collective, a community together that shares a deep and enduring commitment to justice. Being part of this collective has its special benefits, precious ones that I am so grateful for. Benefits like being on the receiving end of unconditional support and generous mentorship, working alongside brilliant and dedicated colleagues in this moment in a larger movement for justice, laboring with love through the hardest of losses and the most difficult challenges, and forging friendships that will last a lifetime. Now, I bet you're thinking that I learned how to make stone soup from my time at Team Child. Actually, stone soup is something that I learned to make from my parents, Jenny and Ming Lee. They immigrated to the US in the late 1950s, started their lives in this country with virtually nothing. They were far from home. No WhatsApp, FaceTime, email, or internet. Back then, to stay connected to family, it was expensive long-distance phone calls and handwritten letters that took weeks to arrive. We didn't have much growing up, but our lives were rich. And that's because my parents were every day making their own version of stone soup, giving what they had and accepting what others had to give, building and belonging to a beloved community that was building around us. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for this award and for honoring my parents and what they taught me and my older sister Denise about making soup.
Amazing and inspirational. Congratulations, Annie. You are an inspiration to us all. The children, our future, and with you on their side, I truly feel hopeful. You are a treasure for the state of Washington. Now back to you, Sean.
Thanks, Fred. So great hearing from Annie and others, their powerful stories and how they impact us. Now it's time that we look, excuse me. Now's the time that we look to equal justice advocates like you, because your support is crucial to sustaining and growing organizations like Team Child. Your support will positively impact stories like Annie's and like Hope's. LFW funds 40 organizations around our state that help individuals and families experiencing poverty to solve the legal issues that often arise and can be devastating. These organizations and their lawyers meet people where they are, in libraries, community centers, homeless shelters, and in courthouses. And they offer hope and critical legal services that help lives get back on and stay on track. As we saw earlier, Hope Kiyodara can now focus on raising her kids and making a living instead of worrying about going to jail. Civil legal aid is truly a lifeline. And there are two ways to support the Legal Foundation of Washington. You can designate your gift for the annual campaign for equal justice, or for the long-term sustainable endowment for equal justice, or both. Now is the time to take a stand for justice and support access to justice for all. Life circumstances, systemic inequities, and tragedy can have a debilitating impact on families for generations. Your donation today is not simply a number. You are changing someone's story for the better. Your donation today will empower families and individuals at a time when they are vulnerable by giving access to representation only civil legal aid can provide. And you'll be supporting advocacy and impact litigation like the Gonzalez case Matt Adams shared with us today. That has the power to change thousands of lives for the better. These are extraordinary times, and we are going to ask those of you who can to consider an extraordinary amount. We've been fortunate enough to receive some $10,000 donations already, and we would like to invite those of you who can to donate $10,000 at this luncheon. If you're able to make a gift of this size, please join us now, and know that you can pay over time too. Thank you. What we're hoping for today is that we have 100% participation in giving. Here are some examples of how your gift will make an impact. How your gift is more than just a number. With a donation of $5,000, you can help train a new group of 50 volunteer attorneys, preparing them to serve hundreds of new clients. With a donation of $1,000, you'll be helping one undocumented youth or child to keep them in the U.S. when going to their home country is simply not an option. If you can donate $500, you can help us reinstate veteran or Social Security benefits to help someone move off the streets into stable housing. With a donation of $250, you can secure domestic violence protection in order to keep a family safe. And with a donation of $100, you can help defend one family against eviction to keep them housed. Please join me and click the donate button right now, and know that you are making a difference. Now is the time to stand up for justice. Thank you for your generosity and commitment to the highest calling of all, equal justice for all.
Thanks so much, Sean. This is incredible. The donations continue to come in. Thank you, Sean, for describing some of the amazing work that is done to advance equal justice around our state from those donations. Let's recognize a few more donors. Yemi Jackson, Kieran Griffith, Murph Eamon, and Mary Hutchkiss. Thank you and all the donors who have donated and stepped up today to help us meet our goal of $500,000. If you were waiting to donate towards the end of the program, now's the time. Don't wait. Sean described the two ways you can donate. Hit that orange donate button or use our text function. The need for legal aid has never been greater, and anything you can give today makes a huge difference. So again, just remember to click that donate button or text justice to 53555 to give. Now's the time. And now I'm honored to introduce our keynote speaker, an equal justice advocate and professor of pediatrics at UW Medicine. Our keynote is a fierce advocate for youth, healthy communities, and racial justice. His career is a true testament to supporting equal justice initiatives across the entire state of Washington. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Ben Danielson.
Warm greetings to you all. It is a sincere and humbling honor to be part of this event today. This, the 36th annual Charles A. Goldmark Award Luncheon. I want to thank the Legal Foundation of Washington, LFW, for providing me this opportunity to be in community with you. It lifts my spirits to take a little bit of time today to pause and share with you this special moment. An event that lovingly interrupts our arduous paths on the long road to a flourishing and just society and allows us to take a breath, release a bit of tension in our shoulders, and see each other, to vest ourselves with the fullest sense of our connection to each other. I'm filled with joy today to notice you all and to celebrate this year's Goldmark honoree, Annie Lee, Director of Team Child and fierce champion for young people most harmed by unjust systems. Annie has dedicated her life to defending the rights and humanity of youth and young adults. I feel connected to Annie. Even though our spheres don't often get to ven as much as I'd like, I feel connected by the way she inspires me and because of a particular something we share. I heard in an interview once that Annie, as a child, thought she might grow up to be a marine biologist. And I did too, as a youth. We share that in common. But what makes Annie's young aspiration more remarkable, than mine at least, is that she dreamed of that as a child in Nebraska who had never even seen the ocean. The ability to dream of things not yet seen, like, say, an end to the practice of youth incarceration, for example. That's what makes Annie visionary and inspiring to so many of us. Team Child has a statement of purpose that includes this passage. We envision a world where all young people have power and experience unconditional belonging. Unconditional belonging. Knowing our power and knowing belonging aptly names unalienable constituents of participating in a beloved community. This is the society. This is the beloved community that Annie Lee, through her spirit and actions every single day, reminds us can be realized, must be realized, and can only be reached if we each roll up our sleeves and sculpt it with our own hands. So I'm filled with joy today to be part of honoring Annie Lee. And I'm filled with joy today to just be in company with you. Thank you all, because I also know that this event honors all of you, staff, lawyer, judges, all of you, for who you are as individuals and for what you accomplish as a combined force for justice. We might need to get you all some sheroes and heroes and non-binary Avengers out there, some capes. A lot of people don't realize. They don't realize that there are folks in the world like you doing remarkable things to hold together lives that have been fractured and fragmented, doing remarkable things. I will share with you that I cherish time with people who are committed to actively doing good work, who are doing more than waiting for the world to be a better place, who don't change their moral values when an issue feels a bit too close to their own backyards. I need to be around people like that. People actively addressing and dismantling systemic racial oppression, who are unapologetic and vividly intentional about building a better world. Which is why I admire you all, and why I'm so honored to be part of this Legal Foundation of Washington event. Now, I know that LFW is there for low-income families across the state by funding the civil justice organizations that are doing hard, worthy work. I know that LFW sees how oppression destroys lives every day and how the anti-racist-based grant-making is a critical part of the solution. LFW sees the pervasive nature of civil legal inequity, impacting issues of immigration and housing and domestic violence and worker rights, to name just a few. Racism and its oppression kin show up in people's lives in so many different ways. Each family or individual may have very unique needs and call on very different talents from each and every one of you. There's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all when it comes to the ways you approach the myriad of challenges folks can face. When it comes to oppression, there is no single recipe for justice. Yet there may be some common themes, some common ingredients. And from my training in healthcare, I know one of those fundamental ingredients is dignity. Dignity. To be clear, I didn't learn this from a classroom or a lab or a hospital. I learned this from the people and the legacy of a community clinic. When the clinic was started back in the late 1960s, its first medical director, Blanche Levizo, coined the term quality care with dignity, a term that came to define the clinic's history. When I first started there a couple of decades ago, I had a lot to learn. I was filled with professionally adorned hubris, let's say, and the kind of healthcare technocentrism, such that I thought the term quality care with dignity was something quaint and historic, or at least that the contemporary emphasis was on the quality care part of that dyad. But I learned, just like the Sankofa bird teaches, about the present relevance of the herstory, and I was taught, mostly by brilliant black women, about the crucial and enduring importance of being intentional about promoting dignity. I learned just how much healthcare systems, with their deeply rooted and ongoing racism, systematically deprive people, especially black and brown people, especially low-income people, how they rob them of their dignity, and how we can never claim to care about wellness if we don't practice promoting dignity. If we don't practice promoting dignity with the same focus that we in primary care promote preventive care, or vaccines, or dental care. Dignity. Dignity is fundamental to wellness, and depriving dignity is a serious injustice. Right alongside the canon of documented health harms of racism, alongside the life-threatening nature of being a black woman giving birth in our healthcare system, alongside worse outcomes for cancer care because of differing treatment based on the extent of your melanin, alongside the decrement in life expectancy by 3 and 4 years if you're black or Hispanic Latinx in this country during this time of COVID. Undoing systemic harm is hard work. It's hard work in this kind of environment because this kind of environment leads to further criminalization of poverty and of pigment. Because this kind of environment lures people to abandon sense and science. Not only of things like vaccines, but also of the sense and science of things like brain development, tempting people to conclude without sense or wisdom or logic that the more serious a crime committed by a trauma-suffused youth means the more we should, for some reason, call them an adult when it comes to addressing the crime. There is not sense or wisdom or logic or science. There's no understanding at all in that kind of conclusion. Undoing systemic harm and rediscovering the practice of instilling hope is hard work. And we all have good reason to lose our focus in the fugue of fatigue. Each of us is navigating our own path these days, but there's a commonality of experience for us, because we're all traversing this time of pandemic. And 2 years in, we're all facing our own version of fatigue. Naming our particular sort of fatigue right now, that might not be easy. And maybe it's not all that necessary to name it. We need only understand how it affects us and how it affects our ability to rise up and rise to the challenges that are most meaningful. I won't pretend to know your journey, but I know that every trauma comes supersized these days. It can make even casual greeting feel kind of irrelevant. So I find that I don't ask, "How are you?" very often these days. And I really don't want anybody to ask me that question so often either, at least not in the passing polite form. I don't ask, "How are you?" unless you're in meaningful relationship with me. It's hard to adequately put to words the answer. It's hard to name our particular sort of fatigue right now. I don't want to presume anything, and I don't want to say something disingenuous. I don't want you to have to say anything disingenuous. So I won't ask, "How are you?" But I will say, it's good to see you. It's good to spend time with you. It's good to be in community with you. And I hope your time is purpose-driven. I hope for you there's a sense of purpose. We can feel purpose. We can feel purpose-driven without always having to name the details of it. It's enough to know that our purpose-driven efforts have meaning. So I trust that your days in this early part of the year are purpose-driven, and that you are devoting some effort to reflection. Not so much to figure out every detail, but to contemplate its meaning, or maybe just get comfortable with waiting and allowing for some time for the meaning to be revealed on its own. I'm asking something of all of us, of myself and of you. I'm asking all of us to remain deeply connected to the things that deeply matter, such as the work of equity, the work of undoing racism, the work of understanding the intersections of equity, racism, justice, and dignity. That's some hard work, but it's at the core of purpose and meaning. And our emergence from this current time as a country, as individuals, as communities, as families, well, that depends, in my view, on our deep commitment to this hard and meaningful work. Unrighting harm is hard work, and injustice really doesn't care too much if we're tired. But you and I know it's always the right time to do the right thing. And it's important to remember that we are woven together in a fabric of co-destiny, and that we are immeasurably stronger together than we are as single entities. It's important. It's important to remember the lessons of Sankofa, the lessons that teach us to remember our past so that our strength is not further diverted by forever repeating the struggles of yesterday. It's important. It's important to help others find that level and just ground in the space between their fears. It's hard to ask any more of each other, any more of us these days. But hey, maybe it's more about asking less of all of us in a way. Because I firmly believe that oppression must be tiring. Oppression must be exhausting, must itself be overwhelmingly fatiguing. It seems like hard work, right? It seems like hard work to hold other people down. It seems like hard work to squeeze our eyes and ears firmly shut to wisdom and sense and logic. It's hard work expending energy justifying systems that are completely unjustifiable, spewing misinformation, seeking the scarcity that says your gain is my loss, rather than the abundance that says not only that there's plenty for all, but also that the plenty grows even more when it's shared. Yes, oppression must be hard work. Harder work for sure than the work of undoing harm. I think it's okay to feel fatigue, to attend to our needs for care and restoration. Yet it doesn't mean letting go of the worthy work of true justice. I believe we need only tap into an energy amplifier, a supercharger of kinetics and spirit. That supercharger is called hope. And I know that hope is a choice. Hope is a choice and not a passive or imposed condition. Hope is a choice we get to make. Hope is a choice we get to practice, and in practicing hope, we are refueled, we are renewed, we are recharged, we are restored. Hope is a choice. I learned that from my elders, from those brilliant Black women, and from the look in the eye of every child I meet. Hope is a choice. It's a choice we get to make, and in making it, tap into power without measure. Hope is a choice and a gift that we can offer each other. And in choosing hope and offering hope, we find ourselves unstoppable on our journey towards a better world, on our journey towards unconditional belonging, on our journey to a beloved community. Thank you for allowing me to share space with you. I hold you deeply and closely in my heart. I am so in admiration of the work that each and every one of you does. I look forward to being a co-conspirator with you, and I hope that your days are filled with the kind of purpose and meaning that allows all of us to move together in this work.
All right, everyone, we've come to the end of our program. Thank you for that terrific message of unconditional belonging, which is so important to the work we do at LFW. Now, you remember our goal today was to raise $500,000 to ensure equal justice in our state. Your participation in this mission is critical to our success. Every gift, no matter how big or small, makes an impact and moves the needle towards equal justice. So let's take one final look at our fundraising thermometer and see how much we have raised today. Drum roll. $430,375. Absolutely remarkable. Thank you all for your contributions. Now, While that doesn't meet the audacious $500,000 goal that we set today, a couple notes on that. One, we exceeded the amount that we raised last year, which was $405,000. So thank you for exceeding what we did in 2021. And of course, it's not too late to donate. We can still hit that $500,000 goal. Remember the ways to donate. We have the donate button that you can use while we're still here. You can text Justice or you can write a check. We appreciate you and we need you. This work is about all of us having the courage and the will to stand up against injustice. This is about equal access to justice for people in poverty across the entire state of Washington. As Executive Director Caitlin Davis said, everyone here today, every legal aid provider, pro bono lawyer, judge and justice, elected official, and equal justice ambassador makes this work possible. So thank you, everyone. We'll see you next year in person for the 37th Annual Goldmark Award Luncheon. Until then, stay safe and keep fighting for equal justice. Bye.